What's up, everyone? It's Roger and James here from the DisKingdom podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about a number of different things, including a number of different video games that have closed down or have been announced that's been closed down. We're going to be talking about the Spider-Man DLC that came out just before Christmas, Silver Linings. We're also going to be talking a little bit about Hasbro with their toy department. So big thing first off, hope you've all had a fantastic Christmas and I hope you all have a fantastic New Year. Going forward, just doing a little bit of housekeeping. You might notice a little bit of difference here with the that intro. That's because we're going to be shaking things up a little bit going into 2019. I asked you guys what you guys thought over the holiday break. Was doing a lot of details into the stats, etc. And we've decided to sort of shift the podcast into a weekly podcast rather than a daily Monday through Friday. So we're going to have one podcast where we're going to talk through some of the big stuff of the week. Also, if you're doing that as well, we want to check out our other podcast, What's on Disney Plus, which goes out on the Tuesdays as well, where we're going to be talking more about the movies and TV side on there. And the DisKingdom one's going to be much more about the merchandise, video games, etc., things like that, comic books. So I wanted to get that out there on the YouTube channel. You are going to get little updates, little news updates when they come in, and then you're going to have the one big episode a week. So I just wanted to get into that one first. So I decided it's been a change. I realized we did well over 1,000 episodes of the DisKingdom podcast on the daily format. And it was like, yeah, we're going to have to let's change things up a bit because you can, like to keep things fresh. So up first, let's talk a little bit about all these games that announced they were closing down over the holiday period. There was tons of them, wasn't there?
I can think of a handful offhand. I'm sure that there were many that I didn't actually notice the announcements for.
Yeah, so first off, Disney Magical Dice, the Enchantable game, completely closed down the other day. That's completely gone now. Disney Storyline Central, or Storyline Store, I keep wanting to say storylines. Disney Story Central is also going to be closing down in February. Spider-Man Unlimited is closing down, and also Avengers Academy is also closing down in the coming months. And it was literally felt like one after another. It's like, if you want to bury your news, put it out there during the Christmas period and hope that no one notices.
Yeah, I mean, I figure they're just kind of doing it in the Band-Aid method. Let's just rip it all at once, get it done. Yeah, I mean, it sucks for the people who are still playing these games, who are enjoying these games. I have to admit, I completely forgot the Disney Magical Dice existed. We covered it when it was relaunched, but still, yeah. I'd forgotten about it. The other Disney branded one, I actually legitimately didn't know existed. It's not one that I forgot about. It's one I'd never even heard of. So that it was announced as canceled. I was like, oh, okay. I actually initially thought it was that Disney Magic Kingdom's like light one.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, that got canceled months ago. What's going on here? So that one, Spider-Man Unlimited, that was the little app that could, though. That game's been running for a very long time.
I think that was about 4 years running. That one was I'm surprised that one. In some way, I'm kind of not surprised because it seems like Marvel have kind of gone down the line of they want one app for everything rather than just like a Spider-Man game. And maybe their license was coming up or it wasn't pulling in the money. It wasn't. I mean, I always thought that was a cool little game. I didn't really play it too much because once you kind of got past a few levels, I'd kind of had enough of it. But the big one that also shook me up was the Avengers Academy. That was an odd one of why, because I thought that was doing all right. Because I know, but then you were playing that and that one had some major issues going on.
I mean, granted, I was playing it, but let's be fair. I think it's been a year, maybe not quite a year since I stopped playing it. Whenever they did their big update to the game, it changed how you unlocked heroes. I think it even added a little bit of story. It added like a more defined combat aspect to the game, although it was still PvE. And I quit right around then. And even before that, I really wasn't playing it. I only came back to see what the big update was for. Longtime listeners will, of course, know I've ragged on that game quite a bit for its extremely aggressive microtransaction. I mean, this game makes Disney Magic Kingdoms look reasonable. It makes games like Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes almost look reasonable, almost. But yeah, it was a game that continually disappointed me simply because of how heavy on the monetization it went. but I really did like the story. I liked the writing in it. I liked the characters that they picked. I remember when Avengers No Surrender came out, they added Voyager, and that was a big deal. And then the character just disappeared off the face of the planet. And yeah, it was a fun little app that would have been better if it hadn't been so aggressive on the monetization. Although, who are we to say if they hadn't monetized it so aggressively, it might have been canceled a year ago. I don't know what the money
Yeah.
looked like, but honestly, it did catch me a little bit by surprise because I thought it was doing at least a little bit
Mm.
well, like above the minimum threshold of what you would expect. I have to wonder though if maybe they're just kind of clearing it out, paving the way for a similar game to take its place, because we do know that new mobile games tend to do better than long running mobile
Mm.
games. There are exceptions, of course. Clash of Clans is still going strong. Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes going strong. Games like that, but the majority of games do better in that first year to 2 year period when you're still getting new players and the whales and the dolphins are still kind of putting money into the system. But as the game goes on longer, it becomes less friendly to new players. And with Avengers Academy, if they kept up the release cycle that they had when I was playing it, there were new characters, like 2 to 3 new characters every other week or so,
Mm.
possibly more. And there'd be no way for a new person to get those characters once the event was done.
Yeah.
They might come back for a later event. Like I'm sure Ant-Man came back for Ant-Man and the Wasp or
Yeah.
something like that. But yeah, so that barrier for new people was just too high, and it's easier to just start from scratch where everybody is a
Mm.
new player. So
Yeah, I also have to wonder if like the arc style and the way that they went with that direction of them being young, and it didn't flow so well with like the synergy of Marvel of having everything on the one plate, that where you've got the movies and the comics are all in that style that they went for. Kind of was a bit different. I mean, well, like with Future Fight and Contest of Champions, it's a lot easier just to bring in the new character, the new outfit, whereas Avengers Academy was this odd time frame where they were all at school. It just didn't flow with the rest of what Marvel were going in.
well, partly that, and then partly also, they could tell stories in that framework of an academy. But even by the time I stopped playing it, it really wasn't about an academy game anymore.
Yeah.
It was trying to mirror whatever was happening either in the comics or the movies. Thanos popped in. I'm sure there was a big event for Avengers Infinity War. There would hypothetically have been a big event for Avengers Endgame next year. But yeah, the whole academy aspect was just gone. Um, and so the main like hook of the game was kind of gone.
Yeah. I mean, I do think like this whole thing of they've recently announced a new deal with Jam City to take over a number of the Disney games. They've been licensing out like Star Wars Commander's been gone out to a different company. But also I'm wondering if they have got some new ones planned. I know they got like a Frozen 2 game and a few other bits and pieces coming up. Whether or not they like, right, okay, we need a new direction. They definitely seem to be shifting things around a little bit. Disney have taken everything like in-house, because I think that was the thing with Story Central. That was still an in-house property being done with by the books division. That was kind of primarily their thing. And I'm wondering whether or not they were like, actually, this subscription model, we would rather you just buy the books, or it just maybe wasn't going in the direction they wanted. Because Story Central was slightly different, because it was about selling books and doing read-alongs, and people were brought in with that with subscription. The other ones are a bit different. I mean, like Disney Magical Dice, that was one of those really weird ones where that game got canned. They rebrought it back as a brand new model, and within another year that was gone. And I think the whole process of trying to do a mobile version of Monopoly, it just wasn't grabbing it. It never seemed to grab any attention. It was never really tying in very well with movies. Yeah, because they did that thing with the whole like the relaunch. They like relaunched it all in with the Disney Infinity like images of some of the characters that just looked. They didn't even bother changing the pose they were in. It was that bad.
Yeah, it was just straight up. We've got a whole bunch of assets that were developed, and we can use them for free because they're ours. So we'll just throw them in this game, and I've got to be honest. I mean, I remember when we reviewed it, I played it. I deleted it off my phone less than a week after our podcast episode about it came out. Completely forgot it existed. I have to admit, I'm surprised it made it this long, honestly.
Yeah, it's kind of those weird things. I think the trouble is, I think Disney went so aggressively into launching as many different games as possible, trying to do stuff, and it feels like they've just been trimming down and trimming down because of right now. I mean, you think of it, you got like Disney Magic Kingdoms, you've got Disney Emoji Blitz, you've got Zum Zum, you've got Frozen Freefall, and Maleficent Freefall. That one's still kind of those two games still seem to be kind of pulling in, but they've really and the Disney Heroes game, they've really kind of trimmed down to a few different ones, and that's probably not a bad thing. I'd rather they have 3 or 4 great games doing lots of updates and focused on that than having 10 games that some of them are just poorly done and all the rest of it. I mean, we know Disney and Disney's work with video game companies and mobile game companies very hit and miss, but maybe they realize that actually having all these, that the well of mobile gamers is not maybe quite as big on the Disney side of things, and on Marvel even. It's just odd. I mean, they've still got kind of the Star Wars ones; they still seem to be going, but even there, like feels like they're coming to the end of their zone.
Well, I mean, earlier this year or earlier last year, at this point, they canceled a Star Wars title before it even got out of soft launch. I mean, so Star Wars is by no means a sure bet. I mean, obviously they've got Galaxy of Heroes, they've got Commander, they've got a couple other ones going on there, but yeah, it does feel like they're trying to focus more, and I would prefer that. You know, like you said, I would much rather have them have a handful of very good games than kind of branch out and have a game for everybody that maybe won't catch on for a mass market. And I have to admit, I think one of the other things I would really like is maybe if they did more one-off games. Because I'm going to bring up a very odd one. We had the Beauty and the Beast Match 3 when when the live action one came out, and then of course it just kind of disappeared. It would have made more sense that rather than trying to have that be a continually updated game or a game that was built around constant microtransactions, just one upfront fee. And I realize that those don't do well in the market because people will drop $500 on DLC on microtransactions, but they won't spend $3 on a fully featured game. But
they tried that with Moana. I remember they brought out that rhythm game that was actually quite good, and you paid up front. There was even a Frozen Build It game as well, like you paid for. Just didn't seem to hit the market, didn't get going. Mobile gamers don't, then this is the thing of like, why are they closing them all down? Is because they've still tested the market. It's still so new. And when you look at like the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox, this is that's a 20-30 year business now. Mobile games, we'd probably, I think, we're past what I would call like the boom. Now it's like actually people are more hardened. They're more used to the microtransactions. Kids are growing up now aware of what's, the parents are much, I don't know. There's no buzz so much about mobile games anymore. They're just part of the background. And I don't think Disney have been really hitting the mark. And as to be honest, the fact that they're being outsourced to other companies like Jamsys means they and Gameloft, I mean, they will push them and publicize them and do all that because anything, I don't know. It's just been a really odd thing. This feels like the last 3 years, all we seem to be talking about with video games is stuff ending and closing rather than kind of stuff. Very few new things.
That's definitely true. The closures do seem to dominate, but they have to launch stuff from the close, so there's that too. And I think that, like you said, the boom period is kind of done. But I think it's more people who do play mobile games, they only play one or two, and especially the ones who spend money, because you don't want to spend anything, but you don't want to spend $1,000 on one game and then $1,000 on another game, and then $1,000 on another game. You'd rather spend the $3,000 on one game and just be like the ultra cracking whale of the server and dominate everybody. So you don't get people with like 30 games on their system, and then of course all of these games, Avengers Academy and so on, are not designed to be played in short bursts. You're not supposed to play Avengers Academy for 5 minutes and then you're done for the day. No, they want you checking your phone on the hour, every hour, sending your characters out on missions to get stuff done so that you can unlock more characters as fast as possible. And every game is doing this.
Yeah, and I don't think this is sustainable. I know I play Disney Magic Kingdoms as my primary mobile game, and like when they had that Wreck-It Ralph event on, I didn't get Vanellope because I just was not getting the drops. And I got, again, it's like it was that thing of constantly just being bombarded with, you've got to check every 2 hours, and it's like, I'm done. I got halfway through the event and I'm just like, I'm not going to do this. I can't be bothered with this anymore. I'm being burnt out. And then once the event overs, one day check-in, because I'm just like, I'm getting bored of this. And that's a big problem with this constant go, 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 go is, and they're all obsessed with live marketing, getting you in constantly and keep you going and keep you spending. They're not sustainable. And I think this is the prime thing with these video games and mobile games. If you are investing, first off, if you're putting money into mobile games, you have to look at it not as an investment, not as something that you're building up this character roster. These things can be taken away with 6 to 8 weeks notice, and you could, all your money. It's like, I just imagine. I probably spent well over £100 on Disney Magic Kingdoms, but that could all be gone tomorrow. They could put out an announcement today, and that's the trouble with mobile games. And I think, looking at the comments on like the Disney Magical Quest one, Magical Dice one, sorry, the comments on there of just people like, and it's like, sorry Disney, but you're burning too many people too quickly. And even with Marvel and stuff, it's like, there's only so much goodwill, and every time there's something like this is happening, it's got to be getting worse for them.
Yeah, and it's not just Disney. Every major company has to be dealing with this. People don't trust that the games are going to continue to exist, and it's going to change the way we look at the games. You and I have already been saying for years now, you can't approach these as a product. These are a cup of coffee. Once you spend that $5 to unlock, Go-Go for the Big Hero 6 event on Disney Magic Kingdoms, you have to view that as money that is gone. You spent it, it's gone. You got your whatever value out of it, and then it's done. It's not an investment. It's not the same as going, oh, I purchased Go-Go for the Big Hero 6 video game, which doesn't exist, but for the Big Hero 6 video game, and now for as long as I have a system that can play that video game, I have Go-Go, just flat out. It's not the same thing, because like you said, this game could be gone, and whatever money you put into it, you're not getting back, and you are not getting anything tangible back for it. All you're getting is whatever time it saved you for having that character, or whatever you spent the money on, or the happy memories. But that's how you have to view it. You can't go into it with the idea that the money I spend now is an investment towards future fun or gaming. It's just whatever you're spending on right now. And more gamers, or mobile gamers, are recognizing that. And there will still be whales. There will still be people who will drop thousands of dollars. But I think that number of people who are sustaining the market is just going to keep going down.
Yeah, it's happening in the console thing of them trying these live services, and some of them are just bang out not working, and they're not hitting expectations. And it's that thing of, I can't help but feel like the companies, they want these live services, these evolving games. And I don't think they sometimes quite realize the fickle nature of humans, where we get bored and we want the next shiny thing. It's all very fine trying to keep you into one thing, but no, you want the next thing that's coming out now. And I do think that that's definitely going to be something that we're going to see a little bit more of. And it kind of brings us on to our next topic, which kind of ties into video game, of a game that just keeps giving. Minecraft, just before Christmas, had a new mashup pack added to the game, whereas you could go in and you could buy them and you get like 30-40 skins of the different characters from Nightmare Before Christmas. You got textures, and they've been adding a lot of dropping things in on the low of and The Incredibles and Star Wars, and they keep dropping stuff into Minecraft because that is a live service game that is not going anywhere for the foreseeable future.
Minecraft is probably the only game that has more staying power than Fortnite right now. So,
Yeah,
you know, yeah, it's not going anywhere. It's still a very popular game. It, for whatever reason, Minecraft tapped into that builder Lego aspect, and it there have been better games. There are games that do it better, but Minecraft is still here. So yeah, if Disney is gonna keep getting the properties
mm.
and keep releasing stuff, Minecraft's the way to go. Because
Yeah,
again, like we were saying, when you buy a skin for Minecraft, there is at least an assumption that that skin will be there for quite some time,
yeah,
because there is absolutely nothing to suggest that Minecraft will just suddenly shut down. There's too many users. There's too
mm.
much money being made for them to be able. Oh, now you know what? We decided to move everyone onto different projects. We're done with Minecraft. We're turning off all the servers. Like, what? No,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, for me as well, I think as a mobile game, I know a lot of kids now play them primarily as their main device. And you got things like Minecraft and Fortnite. These are so much more. These are proper games rather than the mobile ones, which are just quick and go and jump in. And Disney's been good to do this. I mean, they've been jumping in doing stuff for Minecraft. I think we'll see a lot more of that going forward. Fortnite, they've already played well with them back with the Thanos event. I'm surprised we've not started seeing skins and stuff coming into there yet. But this is definitely something cool to watch out. And I specifically know one of my friends, their 7-year-old Minecraft. They love it. And they've been a big fan of this for years. So it's great to see them kind of going into that. But now let's flip over away from the video games and more into like the toys and collectibles line, because there was these two things that kind of interconnected as well. Hasbro make a number of different products for Disney, including stuff for Marvel and Star Wars. They make some great action figures like the Black Series Marvel Legends. First off, they have announced that they have postponed their Hascon event, which is they did the first one back, I think it was 2017. They closed it down. They've postponed it. They've not cancelled it. They've just moved it or anything like that. It was due to take place in beginning of September 2019 in Rhode Island, and yeah, it's kind of a bit of an odd one. We don't know quite what's going on, why it's been postponed, or what they're doing, but that's not generally a good sign. But it also kicks into this other issue of apparently Mattel lost the license to all the DC toys that they make to Spin Master, right? And according to analysts, they are now actively pursuing major licenses. The Hasbro license runs up in 2020, which is not that far away anymore. And there's a lot of expectation that they are going to give Hasbro a run for their money in terms of trying to get hold of Marvel and Star Wars. So Hasbro are going to have to push it up. And as we know, the toy industry at the minute is all over the place. Obviously, the loss of Toys R Us had an impact, but online sales, toys as a whole, kids are buying less of them because they'd rather play Fortnite. And there's a whole lot of kind of bits and pieces going on. That was a little bit interesting from like the Hasbro side of things.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, postponing or canceling a convention is always a major sign that there's some sort of issue going on. Although it could be an issue with the convention itself. We've certainly seen in the past, with the comic industry, conventions get canceled or postponed fairly frequently, and more often than not, it's not a problem with the industry. It's a problem with the organizers, or maybe the way creators are being treated, that kind of thing. And so this might be more, and I'm just kind of spitballing, this might be more of an issue where Hasbro or the vendors looked at this and went, this may be more of a pain than it's worth, that kind of thing. So,
well, the thing is for me, like last year, Hasbro, or this year now technically, is been very active in taking part in other events, because there's so many Comic-Cons now, so many big events taking place. You've got London, you've got Mexico, you've got Canada, you've got all these different events. And what they started to do was they started showing up at each event doing panels and revealing like 3 or 4 figures per panel. And they were getting quite good. I thought they were doing quite well with that, because they were kind of keeping this momentum rather than just unloading everything San Diego Comic-Con, sort of spreading it out at these different events, like Mexico Comic-Con and London. They came out, and I personally think that's a better option for them than trying to do these Hascon event of trying to put all of their brands all in one event and trying to get it out to people and put on all the costs of doing it. And it's like, is the My Little Pony and the Transformers, and they don't really feel as strong as they could have been years ago. And you got to be looking at it going, well, it makes more sense just to use those events that are already existing, where they've got the media, they've got people there, they've got that press attention. Trying to get it all out, the costs have got to be silly for that.
Yeah, I mean, conventions are not cheap for vendors, for creators, for all that stuff. And I mean, it's not cheap to attend one, let alone to run one. So I could definitely see a situation and be like, we've got San Diego Comic-Con, we've got Gamescom and all the various cons. There's so many that fit so many different genres. I could definitely see them just going, you know what? Let's just show up for the other ones.
It is an odd one. I do think there is just so many events taking place now, and it makes more sense for them to spread it out. So on the one hand, like the Hasbro side from the Hascon event, I can see why they've done that. It might just not have worked out of what in terms of what they saw the benefits and the reactions and stuff from it. Flipping back now to Hasbro, kind of with their license, they've been doing Star Wars, I think, since like 1991 or something. So they have been making Star Wars toys for a long time. So they will know the business of what their sales are and how much they make and all the rest of it, much more than Mattel coming into them. So they have got that advantage. But Star Wars has been a bit of an iffy toy line the last couple of years. Maybe not quite hitting where they marked. It could mean a brand new refresh if Mattel do get it. But also it means Hasbro might be like, no, we're going to keep paying for this. We know we make some money on this and keep Mattel out. But it's going to be interesting where they go with this, I think. But then sometimes competition is never always a bad thing from the consumer point of view.
Well, competition is almost always a good thing from a consumer point of view when we're talking about going from a monopoly situation to maybe a shared situation. Maybe it ends up going to both companies, both Mattel and Hasbro get a chance, and maybe some other companies in the process too. And you look at it and you go, as you said, the Star Wars toys maybe haven't been as hot as they could be, especially since The Force Awakens. It's been kind of a decline since then. And the question, of course, is how much of that is the people who are making the toys? Maybe they're not making the toys that people want. And how much of it is there not a market for it?
No.
And this is something that all of them are going to be thinking about, of course, and we're going to be thinking about too. Because I have to admit, I look at a lot of the toys. I see the articles pop up on DisKingdom, and I'll read them and I'll see. I don't care about this. Granted, I'm not buying. I'm not buying for a kid. I'm looking for myself in this case. So most of the toys aren't also marketed at me, which is, of course, worth keeping in mind. But a lot of the stuff they put out, I'm like, you know what? Even as a kid, that really wouldn't have been much for me.
And like now, like with my nephews and my friends' kids and stuff, of seeing what's going on with them, of like what they're playing with it, bits and pieces. I mean, I know Christmas with my nephew, give him some PJ Masks stuff, he was going bonkers for it. But even now, he's already aware of the app, and now it's like jumping in on the PlayStation. And 7-year-old friend of mine, they are no longer. The parent turned around to me and was like, they're not playing with toys anymore, other than Lego. They've started their console and the PC are pulling them in, and it's that thing of the market is changing. And I personally feel like they were checking out way too much stuff for kids. It's like all those the 3-inch figures. There was way too many of them. I think they needed a much shorter line, the main core characters, and keep that. And then they had all these different price ranges, and I think that's not so good. There's a lot of competition. I mean, the whole kind of the Mighty Mugs, they tried going after the pop vinyl market. That didn't seem to they were constantly on sale. I do think the Marvel Legends line and the Star Wars Black series, they've got a place. They're like the right price point of. But even those, as like Marvel of, they've got competition from Disney because they Diamond Select make some figures. They make their toy box figures, etc. So they have to be pretty good. But I mean, a lot of the toys and stuff, I don't know. I think they were just they're throwing stuff out there, and I don't think kids are playing with them the same way that they were, and I don't know if they're adapting as quickly as as they should be.
Yeah, and the market's very different than it was back when they first got the license too. Uh, there's tablets and switches and VR and all this stuff coming on now, and they've got to compete against that as well. So I don't know. It's a very iffy market at the moment, and I don't know what the answer is, but somebody needs to figure it out, or or kids aren't going to have toys. They're going to have tablets. I mean, they already do, but that's
well, they do. It's just that thing of, I mean, it's the fact that kids view that often now that toys are what you have when you've been bad, and they take away your tablet or your games console. It's like, that's not really the trouble is, like, I can see from the point of view of like jumping into Fortnite or something like that is a lot more fun than playing with an action figure. And unfortunately, things have changed, and it's like, small kids will still continue to play with toys, and I think there needs to be that line of who they're going after. Adult toy collectors are a great source, but the question is, of adult collectors buy differently to kids and spend differently to kids, but also I mean, it was like this whole thing as well that just broke as well was before Christmas was Spyro announced that they are no longer making the Disney products like the style they made, like BB-8, Lightning McQueen, and Spider-Man. They're not doing the licensed stuff anymore.
Did you say Spyro?
Yeah, Spyro.
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 Spyro is a dragon.
Oh yeah, sorry. So they've announced that they've pulling out, and they were putting out some stats saying, kids don't play with their products very long, and they're not coming back and buying more, and they're not keep using them, and they're not using the apps like they are with their like STEM toys that they're making. And I'm sitting there going, hold on a minute, you give a kid an interactive like droid or Spider-Man, they're not going to play with this thing. It's not a live service where they're going to be playing with it for years and keep going in and doing stuff. It's like, it's probably more likely going to be play with it for a few weeks, get bored of it, maybe play with it a bit later if they're really lucky. It's like, they're expecting it's almost that thing of like stats are skewing their view of like, oh no, we expected kids to play with them a bit longer, and then once they brought a droid, they didn't come back and buy more. It's like, well, these were quite expensive products. Yeah, it's like, I don't really get them. I was reading that going, I don't think you get what kids do with toys.
Yeah, I mean, I actually expect that most people who bought the BB-8 and the R2-D2 weren't buying it for kids. No. They were buying it for themselves. I know we actually have some of them, at least one at the office. I see them on my coworkers' desks, and I'm like, yeah, if I bought it, I definitely wouldn't be giving it to a kid, because it's an expensive, fragile toy that would get completely broken. I wouldn't even buy one simply because I've got cats in the house. If I put BB-8 down on the ground and rolled it around, those cats would treat it like a catnip mouse.
It was just that weird thing of like hearing when they like put out this like report of like why they were pulling. I can understand the Star Wars license maybe wasn't quite doing it, and once you've done the droids, there's not really a lot more they could do with it. And they said that, but it was this whole concept of them kind of going on about how the kids, they're not playing with them as long as they do with their STEM toys. And I go, these are toys. These are interactive toys. These are gimmick. These are like this, all the whole thing of Christmas gimmick toys of you buy them, you play with them for a few weeks, and then they go in the cupboard or they get put in the. It's like that's what happens with gimmick toys. Trying to expect them to have long life out of them, as like I think it's almost that thing of you guys are too close to it and you're overthinking it rather than just taking that eye look back and go, actually no, this is just normal.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard for them or anybody to separate themselves from kind of what they expected or what they wanted, rather than how it is. Because, if you're the creator of something, you're like, why would anyone not want to play with this BB-8 for 27 hours straight every single day? But you do have to temper expectations, and I don't know how much of it is actually true. I don't know how much of what they're saying was their expectations and how much of it is just damage control and them coming up with an excuse to stop doing it. And
businesses never just use just random excuses just for why they close things down at all. It's just, unfortunately, I think we're at that point of you see it at Christmas with all these different bits and pieces out there. Now all the companies are all going to pull back and they're all getting ready for next year and all the rest of it. But it's very interesting to see what's going on in the toy industry at the moment. There was actually is that thing of, obviously during the Christmas period, not a huge amount of toys and merchandise are announced. We got to that point of the last 2 weeks where, yeah, everyone's had all their stuff out for Christmas. Everything's out. But so before we go into that, we're going to the last bit that we'll do today, was the Spider-Man DLC, Silver Linings, which came out just before Christmas on the PlayStation 4. I played through it, finished off the DLC. I mean, I could go back and get the collectibles and get the platinum, but that's kind of the game done. And I was a bit sad, come up with this little screen at the end about Stanley, and I'm like, and the music's playing, and I'm like, yeah, that was Spider-Man. That was awesome. I loved it. The DLC was a bit odd. Did you get a chance to play it over Christmas?
I had the chance to play it. I did not play it. After the second DLC, I just couldn't work up the energy to bother doing it. I will at some point. Obviously, it's not very long, and it will cap off the story. But yeah, the enthusiasm to play it has just kind of dwindled.
Yeah, luckily for me, it worked out. I just finished the Hitman 2 campaign, the Christmas Eve. So Christmas Eve, I was playing. I managed to run through 95% of it. I just had the final boss battle. The new I was getting a whole new load of games for Christmas that I knew I'd be playing. So I've been playing like Shadow of the Tomb Raider and VR, PlayStation VR since Christmas. So I managed to get through it all, and I completed it, and it's all done. And the whole thing, right? It was Silver Sable. It was kind of I think it was this chapter 3 was much better than chapter 2. Had a proper ending. The whole thing of what got me was they kind of turned like Tombstone into a cyborg robot with his head on it, and it just looked weird. And yeah, it was on one. I liked the whole sort of the banter that they had between Silver Sable and Spider-Man, but the thing that they had with this robot was just really, really weird. It just didn't look like him at all.
Yeah, I have no reference.
I
haven't seen any pictures of it.
No, it's like, because you said this about chapter 2 about him being a bit different. Well, in chapter 3, they literally decapitated him and put his head onto a robot body. That's how far they've gone from the source.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, it's Tombstone. Who the heck cares? He's not even a C-lister. He's like an F-lister villain. No one cares about Tombstone. But still, at the same time, I'm kind of like, that's not even close to what his character is. So,
no,
I don't know.
No, and then they ended. And this full-on spoiler zone, but it's been out for a couple of weeks now. The ending of just having Spider-Man teaching Miles to do how to and that was the end of it. They literally jumped off a building together, and that was the end of the thing. And they're like, "Oh, they have so set this up." Because people are going, "Well, why isn't Miles Morales' suit in it?" Because they brought in Into the Spider-Verse suit. Well, why can't it was like, well, they've left Miles out as a suit from that because that's going to be Spider-Man 2. That's the whole. They've been building this whole thing up, and he's being trained and stuff, and it was great. I mean, they also did a great thing of adding in the Spider-Man, like the Remy suit, the one from the trilogy, because so many people were asking for it that they dropped it for free just before Christmas. I was like, yeah, they probably planned this. I can't imagine they. And then there's this whole feedback of people going backwards and forwards of going, they shouldn't have given it to the fans, and they should have given it to the fans, and then they were asking for more stuff. It's like, the game's done now. Just they did the nice little gesture, and now we've got this kind of suit, this cool suit. But yeah, people were moaning about not having the Miles suit from the Into the Spider-Verse instead of the Peter Parker version. It's like, yeah, but if you played the game, it makes sense. They're not going to give you Miles Morales for free because they want that for someone else.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many other suits they could have added too. So if you really want to, you can complain about your favorite suit or some random suit that appeared for a single issue in 1977 or whatever. Sure, go ahead, complain. Complain that you can't be Spider-Gwen or Spider-Girl or Spider-Woman, or MJ or whatever. I mean, there's plenty of things. But at the end of the day, they did have to end the story at some point. And yeah, it does make sense that Spider-Man 2 would be the Miles Morales story, and that's what we'll expect. Because especially, it gives them a built-in oh, you're starting from scratch again. You don't
Yeah.
have all the cool powers. You have to earn the powers back. You have to earn the suits back. You have to earn all that stuff, and just easy. And yeah, it's anybody who thinks that they're not holding stuff back now for Spider-Man 2 at this point.
Well, that's it. I mean, the game's done that. There is that. There'll be no more to that game. I would imagine Spider-Man 2 might be 2020 if they're lucky. Maybe 2021. It's going to take it.
2020.
Yeah, I mean, they've already got the city. They've already got the mechanics, and the game probably got finished 6-8 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, they do have the game done, so they could just, in theory, take the assets from this and build a new Spider-Man 2 framework around it. I mean, best case scenario, which would never happen, would be that it'd be ready for around the time Far From Home comes out, but that's July 2019.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Not a chance in heck.
No,
definitely. But 2020 is what we'll expect.
Yeah, 2020, September 2020. I'll be honest. I mean, I'd love that then, but if they could have another year on it and polish it, it would probably be better than 2021. I mean, got to be realistic of like give them a few years to. We don't want to. They've put so much time and effort into this game, but then at the same time they've built a framework which they could probably use for 3 to 4 or 5 games and just keep building on it. And the success of this game was fantastic. I loved it. It's that kind of when they talk about game of the year. It's like that Spider-Man and Red Dead Redemption and God of War. There's some big games there. Spider-Man was very, very good. I really enjoyed it.
It was a good year for Spider-Man in general. I mean, he was a major part of Infinity War. He had one of the more iconic or memed lines from the movie, of course, right near the end. He had the video game with the 3 expansions, and then he had Into the Spider-Verse, which has been doing absolutely incredibly well, and everybody is raving about how good it is. I have one coworker who's like, I can't do it. It's too confusing, and I can understand that as well. Into the Spider-Verse is not, the most easy to get into before you see it, but they do a good job with the movie. So, I mean, this is. I mean, I know in the Chinese calendar they don't have a year of the spider, but this is the year of the spider. So
yeah, very, very good. So on that note, guys, thank you very much for joining us. As per usual, guys, remember to check us out over at DisKingdom.com. Like, follow us, and subscribe on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc. You can also find us on all the different podcast services, so make sure you subscribe there. If you want to leave us a review, that would be great as well. Like I said, we're going to be moving over to this like weekly format, so it's a bit longer for everyone to be able to listen to it. And yeah, just feedback's always welcome. We're going to be trying this for at least 3 to 6 months because I like to give things at least a chance to kind of get going. But yeah, I do like this format kind of, and so doing bits and pieces. So thank you very much for joining us. Hope you all have a fantastic new year. James, where can they find you?
Heroiclegacy.com.
And on that note, guys, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back next week. Laters.